Guten Tag, APUSH. We have a new video today. It's the Bee's Knees by the Big Cheese himself, Mr. Linegar. Let's make history today as we jaw over Unit 1, Day 5. First, let's do our daily punishment. A crazy wife said to her husband that moose are falling from the sky. The husband says, "It's reindeer." Here are your key terms for today. The Fundamental Orders of Connecticut, Thomas Hooker, the Blue Laws, Praying Towns, John Eliot, the Pequot War, King Philip's War, the New England Confederation, the Dominion of New England, New Netherlands, Peter Stuyvesant, Patroonships, William Penn. The key concepts for today: relationship with Native Americans for New England, New England's interactions with England, which will be problematic at times, the political and economic characteristics of the Middle Colonies, and the religious characteristics of the Middle Colonies, guys. So let's get started. We're going to start off continuing with New England and talk about Connecticut and New Hampshire. Connecticut and New Hampshire will both become colonies. At first, Massachusetts claimed these colonies. The founder of Connecticut will be Thomas Hooker, a Puritan preacher. Connecticut's going to be famous for creating the Fundamental Orders of Connecticut, which will be the first colonial constitution. Connecticut will also pass the Blue Laws, which were laws created by the colonial government that will be based on religious teachings from like the Old and New Testament. So they'll base a lot of their laws in Connecticut, like they do in Massachusetts, on Leviticus, Exodus, Deuteronomy, which is in the Old Testament, the Torah. New Hampshire will be absorbed by Massachusetts. The King of England was getting kind of sick of Massachusetts. They were a little bit too independent for his liking, so he's going to start trolling them by taking away Massachusetts' power, both directly and indirectly. He already allowed Rhode Island to be a colony, and he's going to allow New Hampshire to split off from Massachusetts and create their own colony in 1679. The Puritans will have poor relationships with the American Indians. That's true talk, true talk. The Puritans, even though they were very religious, they were Puritans. They believed in double predestination. They probably thought the Native Americans were going to hell anyway. So they were very half-hearted and insincere with their attempts to convert the Native Americans. John Eliot, a Puritan, will establish praying towns. Praying towns were basically where they would send the Native Americans to some of the Puritan towns. They would read them the Bible in English, and they would just hope that the Holy Spirit converts them. Obviously not a very effective way to convert people if they don't speak English. The New England colonies will fight the Pequot in the Pequot War. They will actually annihilate the tribe. The big war that the New England colonies will fight against the Native Americans will be King Philip's War. This was led by Metacom, who was called King Philip by the New Englanders. It was a Pan-Native American alliance to try to drive the New Englanders out of the New World. Metacom was actually a Wampanoag. They were the ones that were friendly originally, and they kind of regretted that by now. This was actually a very bloody war. A lot of New Englanders are going to die, and it's going to stop the spread of New England for decades, but it will be the last real challenge in New England by the Native Americans. There will be some changes in New England. The New England Confederation is going to be when 4 of the New England colonies will band together for defense against the Native Americans. It will be a Puritan club. Rhode Island, Rogues Island, will not be allowed to join. Each member will have 2 votes. It will be the first step towards colonial unity, another one of our stepping stones. Massachusetts will continue to lose power from the King of England. They will allow Connecticut a charter from sea to sea. Rhode Island will be given a new charter, Rogues Island. And Massachusetts will lose its charter in 1684 and will be forced to become a royal colony. New England Confederation, picture right here. It's going to be the 2 Massachusetts colonies and the 2 Connecticut colonies. Let's talk about the first American Revolution, which we never think of as. The Dominion of New England is going to be formed from England. They were upset. James II was upset about some of the independence and self-government in the English colonies. He's going to want to directly control the colonies. He was upset that the New England colonies were not following the Navigation Acts and they were smuggling. So what he's going to do is he's going to send Sir Edmund Andros. They're going to directly control the New England and New York colonies. There'll be more control over trade. This will actually fall apart because during this time, England will have their own revolution, the Glorious Revolution, where James II is kicked out in a bloodless revolution. Boston will revolt after they find out about this. Sir Edmund Andros will try to sneak out of the New World, but will be caught wearing a dress because of his boots. His boots were not made for walking. This whole experience will fall apart. This does not lead to the American Revolution because the Dominion of New England does not last. After this time, the English government will leave New England alone for the next about 70, 80 years. It will lead to salutary neglect. Salutary neglect is when the New England colonies and the colonials, the 13 colonies in general, are kind of left to their own devices. The laws against them, like the Molasses Act, the Navigation Acts, will not be enforced. They will give colonists freedom. Here's the Dominion of New England. Boo. We're going to talk lastly about some of the middle colonies. New York and Pennsylvania. New Jersey will eventually split off from New York, and Delaware will eventually split off from Pennsylvania. So let's talk about New York first. New Netherlands was formed by the Dutch. It was actually originally the Swedes, and then the Dutch will take it from the Swedes. The Dutch will buy Manhattan Island from the Native Americans for some beads, like really, really cheaply. They will not grant religious freedom. Everybody there will have to be a Calvinist, because that's what the Dutch are. They create a wall in New York to protect from Native Americans' attacks. It's called Wall Street, and that's where we get the name. They will have large landowners. There'll be some wealthy families in New York that control large swaths of lands. They're kind of like aristocratic nobles. It's kind of like feudalism. And this is called patroonships. And you'll have like some patroons like the Schuyler's, the Clintons. Alexander Hamilton will actually marry into a patroonship family, one of the old aristocracy of New York. Eventually, the English will, before the English, the Dutch will push out the Swedes, Peter Stuyvesant, and then, one good turn deserves another, the English will take over New Netherlands in 1664. Peter Stuyvesant will surrender. He was called Father Wooden Leg because he had one leg, so that's a cute title. And the English will take over New Netherlands, and they'll rename it New York. There's New Netherlands, New York. Let's talk about my boy, William Penn. Yeah, he was a Quaker. Quakers were a super interesting religion. Quakers believe everybody is equal. They believe everybody has a part of God within them. Because of that, they believe in complete equality. They're against any type of violence. They're pacifist. They are against slavery. They're abolitionists. They don't believe in social hierarchy, so they refuse to salute or take off their hats for the King of England. Because of that, they were often arrested in England for not following social hierarchy, not bowing to the king. One of the people that was friends with the king was William Penn. He was a Quaker. He actually loaned out a lot of money to the king in order to kind of get him out, so the king didn't have to persecute him. He's going to give William Penn a lot of land, what's now today Pennsylvania. William Penn is going to create a colony based on toleration and patience, based on his Quaker principles. Quakers, like I said, super interesting. Quakers don't even have a set church service. What would happen is you would just go into a building and you'd wait for the Holy Spirit or the inner light to command you to speak. So you might have a whole church service where nobody talks. They're just a fascinating religion. When William Penn does his colonial government, he'll buy land fairly from the American Indians. He will grant freedom of religion, no tax-supported church, and he will dislike slavery. When he meets with the Native Americans for the first time, he actually is so overcome because like they do the peace pipe, which is actually a real thing. The Native Americans are doing like a dance for celebration and friendship, and he like takes off his clothes and he starts dancing with them. So I always imagine it's like, very prim aristocrat doing that. But he was a good guy. He was awesome. Some of the characteristics of the middle colonies: fertile soil, they had forest, seaports, it's more ethnically mixed. In New England, their government is going to be very localized, like in town halls. In the colonial South, their government will be like based on colonies, like the Virginia House of Burgesses. The middle colonies will be kind of mixed. They'll be like region, like countywide. The lands will not be as small. Like in New England, they had small farms. In the South, they had plantations. Land will be a little bit kind of in between for the middle colonies. They will do religious toleration and democratic control, at least in Pennsylvania. And the middle colonies will be known as the breadbasket. This is where a lot of the wheat is grown. This is the middle colonies are the ones that really feeds the rest of America. And here's a picture of the middle colonies. Yay! All right, guys, and that is all I have for you for today. Until next time, deuces, deuces, yeah.